the victory for democracy. A federal judge has temporarily blocked the USPS policy changes nationwide that were set in motion by Louis DeJoy, who is Donald Trump's postmaster general, who is implementing policies that would certainly make it easier for him to steal the election in November. And I just want to mention Louis DeJoy. If you haven't seen the clip earlier this week, we went in detail about how he used $600,000 in donations to Donald Trump and to the Republican Party to secure his position as postmaster general. But I want to pull that headline on your screen. Federal judge temporarily blocks USPS policy changes nationwide. A federal judge issued a historic decision to temporarily block the U.S. Postal Service and Postmaster General Louis DeJoy from changing a wide swath of USPS policies or protocols ahead of November's presidential election. The opinion from Judge Stanley Bastin in Eastern Washington's U.S. District Court enjoined Trump administration postal policies as harmful to voters' ability to cast ballots this November and deliberately suppressive to voters. It places the judge at the center of a political furor in which the court stepped into the extraordinary position of stopping the entire USPS from making any changes that may affect efficiency or efficient mail delivery nationwide. This is definitely a victory. The question that we'll explore more, we'll read a little bit more of the article so that you can get the full picture of what's happening, is will DeJoy undo all of the damage that he has currently done? I want to stress something here. We cannot wait, and I'm going to talk about this extensively in the patrons episode because it really was pressed upon me yesterday that sometimes we wait to see if their goodwill will win out over their ambition and over their political ambition. And what I mean by that is, if we wait to see if they're going to do the right thing, we've already lost. And so if we're waiting to see if Louis DeJoy is going to do the right thing and undo the damage that he's already done, we've already lost. Because I believe that we will wait and wait and wait and think that they will do the right thing. Politicians, people with power are just going to assume that people are going to appeal to their better nature and better side. And ultimately, we will find that someone like Louis DeJoy will sabotage the entire postal service in order to help Donald Trump secure his second term. And so we can't wait to see if there's any goodwill that will appeal to them or their better senses, because they have shown us exactly who they are. And this victory from the federal judge is absolutely a victory for democracy, because if we had waited, we would have seen that DeJoy would have executed his plan, and we would have looked up on November 4th wondering what happened. All right, let me get back to the article. I want to read a couple of more quotes. This is a quote directly from the article. Although not necessarily apparent on the surface, at the heart of DeJoy's and the Postal Service's actions is voter disenfranchisement, Bastains wrote. This is evident in President Trump's highly partisan words and tweets. The actual impact of the changes on primary elections that resulted in uncounted ballots and recent attempts and lawsuits by the Republican National Committee and President Trump's campaign to stop the state's efforts to bypass the Postal Service by utilizing ballot drop boxes, as well as timing of the changes. It is easy to conclude that the recent Postal Service's changes is an intentional effort on the part of the administration, the current administration, to disrupt and challenge the legitimacy of upcoming local, state, and federal elections, especially given that 72% of the high-speed mail sorting machines that were decommissioned were located in counties where Hillary Clinton received the most votes in 2016. The USPS must now undo all changes made in the last few months, including the only one DeJoy has taken ownership of, significantly restricting late and extra tips, according to the decision. And that's the key point. That's the part I wanted to read. It is necessary that what was done is undone. And it's going to be necessary to make sure that this decision is carried out, because what we've seen historically is when a court makes a decision that conservatives don't like, they drag their feet actually executing what the court said. The most famous version of this or account is Brown versus the Board of Education. I believe 1954, Brown versus the Board of Education, where the decision effectively desegregated schools, but it took more than a decade for it to actually be implemented. In this case, the decision says that it should undo DeJoy's action, but we need to make sure that it's undone this week. Not in 10 days, not in 10 weeks, not in 10 months, and definitely not in a decade. It needs to be done immediately, because if it's not done and back to their same level of efficiency, then this decision is meaningless. I want to point out something else in this decision. Like we saw with the quote unquote Muslim ban that Donald Trump tried to implement at the very beginning of his administration, you'll notice that Donald Trump's words are oftentimes used against him in a court decision. This matters. This matters because at least at some level of the judiciary, there is truth and common sense, and words mean things. And this is what I mean by this. We see so often that Donald Trump will say something explicitly racist. He will say something explicitly dangerous. He will say that he's going to do a Muslim ban. He will say all of these things. But the propagandists on the right will spin it and say, oh, he didn't really mean that. He didn't really say that. And he's not going to implement a Muslim ban. He's not actually he's doing these things with the post office to protect democracy. This is how they will spin it. And it's good and refreshing to see that at least one federal judge, and I make that emphasis because Donald Trump has appointed so many federal judges on the judiciary that I think many of them will do his bidding when the rubber meets the road. But at least this federal judge is saying we can look at the explicit words of Donald Trump and see his intention and understand that his intention is to undermine the election and the voters' ability to participate in the election through mail-in ballots, especially because this is my additional commentary. Obviously, this is not what the judge said. But when you look at the fact that Donald Trump has downplayed the coronavirus so much so with his supporters that his supporters barely believe that it is actually real, his supporters are going to overwhelmingly show up at the polls. And there was a recent poll that said at least 35%, I believe 35% of Joe Biden's supporters are going to use mail-in ballots. And so with that significant number of people using mail-in ballots, Donald Trump attacking mail-in ballots was clearly a way for him to secure the election in November. I am grateful that this judge can actually see his words and his actions for what they really were, instead of this ridiculous world of spin and propaganda where Donald Trump can say something explicitly and all of his Fox News pundits and all of his commentators and all of his people through social media will be like, no, he's not really trying to undermine the election. He's really trying to secure democracy. It is refreshing to see a judge who actually say, don't try it. We see exactly what he's trying to do. One last quote from this article. They said, while we were exploring our legal options, there should be no doubt that the Postal Service is ready and committed to handle whatever volume of election mail it receives. Our number one priority is to deliver election mail on time, USPS spokesperson Dave Partenheimer said. Lee Moak, chair of the Election Mail Committee of the Postal Service's Board of Governors, added, any suggestion that there is a politically motivated attack on the efficiency of the political service is completely and utterly without merit. But Bastian said that he was personally warned by the USPS that his and his family's ballots may be delayed through the informative mailer the Postal Service sent out regarding elections. If nothing has changed, why did I get the warning from the Postal Service yesterday for my own personal ballot, he asked. This is exactly, I'm reading this article on the fly, so I didn't know this part was coming, but this is exactly what the hell I was talking about. You see how Donald Trump's sycophants and conservative apparatchiks and propagandists will take what we can clearly see is daytime and they will tell us that it's night. We can clearly see that the sky is blue, but they would tell us that it is green. We can clearly see that every action that has been taken by Louis DeJoy has been used to usurp our ability to participate in this election through mail-in ballots, and it is an expressly political agenda. But Lee Moak, or however the hell you pronounce this man's name, is spinning it this way, saying any suggestion that there is a politically motivated attack on the efficiency of the Postal Service is completely and utterly without merit. Who the hell do you think we are? We were born at day, but not yesterday.